All right, welcome to our next lecture. We're talking about the digestive system, and the process we're talking about is nutrient uptake and transport. So as always, our objectives and our vocab. So you're going to be able to define homeostasis, explain how molecules move from the digestive tract into the blood using diffusion, active transport, and osmosis. List the monomers for the 4 organic macromolecules. Describe food digestion, nutrient uptake, and transport. And in the digestive system, explain what the mouth, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and pancreas do. So when we go through the stuff, we're talking about specific processes that organisms do to stay alive. So this week, the process we're talking about is going to be food digestion, nutrient uptake, and transport through the body. Right? And what we need to bring into our bodies, what the point of this or what we're doing, we need to bring in our organic macromolecules, okay? And we'll go through where those are found in a second. Right, so our organic macromolecules are the common large molecules that we're going to use in our bodies to survive, right? And you can classify them into 4 general categories, and they're found in the things we eat every day. That's how we get them in, is through food. So we have carbohydrates, I think should not be there. Let's give it, oh, it's the ones we've already talked about. There you go. Carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acids. We've already done those in the past weeks. The only new one this week is going to be lipids. So carbohydrates first, their function is quick energy, right? The monomer are the smallest pieces, right? You have carbohydrates are macromolecules, they're big ones. The monomers would be the smaller ones. The monomer of a carbohydrate is a monosaccharide. Mono means one, saccharide, sugar, right? And we talked about glucose is the one that we talked about. The polymer is a polysaccharide. Sometimes it's called starch also. And our examples would be bread, pasta, Gatorade. Vegetables and fruits are also carbohydrates. People don't usually think of them like that, but they are. Because remember, we talked about plants doing photosynthesis, and in photosynthesis, we get oxygen and we get glucose. Well, that means plants' parts have to be made of glucose. So there you go. Next one, proteins. We did this first. This is the first one we did. So their function is growth, repair, structure, and enzymes, right? The monomer, the small part, is an amino acid. The amino acids link together to make polypeptides, right, or proteins. A peptide bond is the link between the amino acids to make the peptide chain. Your examples would be meat, nuts, eggs. That's the stuff you eat to get your proteins. Next, nucleic acids. We did these way earlier also. Nucleic acid function is to make proteins in the body. The monomer is a nucleotide, right? Those are the smaller parts. We talked about the nucleotide having the sugar and the phosphate and the nitrogenous base, right? The polymers are the nucleic acids, DNA, RNA, and now we're adding ATP. That's a new one. We're going to use that next week. So we're going to take all this stuff in, and that's what we're going to do with it. Lipids, this is the new one. So lipids are going to be fats. All right, their function is to store energy. They also make up our cell membranes, and they also make things waterproof. The monomer is a fatty acid. Okay, so it's a smaller part of a lipid, a fatty acid. And your examples are going to be butter and oil. That's things you eat, but we also have things like the cell membrane. So big scale transport, we did this before. You've seen this slide before, okay? It's going to say something a little bit different, so still write it down. For the digestive system, the big scale transport, it's used to get food, right? So our macromolecules into our bodies, and it's used to eliminate waste. So ingestion is putting food in your mouth. Peristalsis is muscle contractions that are going to push food through your digestive tract. So our digestive system is going to break down food, then digest the macromolecules into their monomers, right? So that's going to be in the stomach and the small intestine. Then it will absorb or uptake nutrients, so absorb nutrients, and this is going to be taking the monomers from the food and bringing them into our bodies. This happens in the small intestine also. So the key order of our organs, right, is mouth. Then your mouth connects to your esophagus, right? We have them up here. We have, let me get my pen and red. We've got mouth. Then we have to our esophagus. Your esophagus connects to your stomach. Stomach just kind of stores stuff, right? Your stomach then connects to your small intestine. So it's going to then travel from your stomach through all of this. And then we go out this way, and that's the large intestine. It's going to go up over, down, and out. Okay, and once we get out, we're then in the excretory. We're then in excretion, right? And we're getting rid of our waste products. So mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine are in order. These other organs we have here that are listed, right? Let me highlight them. This one, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. These are accessory organs. The food never touches them. They're going to provide all of our enzymes and our hormones so that we can break down all of the nutrients here. So digestive system breaks down food. What happens is that proteins, right, and they're over here, let's find them, proteins on this side, are going to be broken down into amino acids, right? Carbohydrates are going to be broken down into glucose, down to their monosaccharides, right? And then fats, triglycerides is another word for fats. Fats are broken down to the fatty acids. So now that we break everything down, we have to do something with it or put it away. How are we going to use it, right? So now it's kind of sitting in our small intestine all broken down, but now what? So we have to get things where they need to be, get them into and out of the cell. They're going to have to pass through the cell membrane, and we're going to use two types of transport. We've mentioned this before, passive and active. Our passive is diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis. Our active is our bulk transport and our pumps. And all of this is used to keep our body in balance to maintain homeostasis. So let's see how we're going to use it in the digestive system. Villi are small finger-like structures that are in the small intestine. So your small intestine, on top of having, like, let me get my pen, straight lines like this would be your small intestine, right? Your small intestine actually looks like this on the inside. Okay, and it's woven back and forth like that on either side. That's because the walls of the small intestine are going to be where you absorb your nutrients through. So everything has to go from that cavity of your intestines through those walls to get into your bloodstream. So what happens is that amino acids and monosaccharides are going to be transported into the capillary by diffusion. So this right here is inside, and this is inside the small intestine. Right? And we want to get everything in here. This is our goal. That's our capillary, right? And this is our lacteal, which is a different word for, or just it's something new, right? So what happens is we have our amino acids, our monosaccharides, okay? They're all high right here. There's a lot of them there. So that's a high concentration in our intestines. There's a low concentration in our blood. So we move from high concentration to low concentration until we reach equilibrium. So that means the amino acids are going to diffuse into the blood. The monosaccharides will diffuse into the blood. We're only one cell thick here, so we can do that, right? We'll move from high to low until we reach equilibrium. That's how we're going to get our amino acids and our monosaccharides into our bodies. That's what we want. All right, the osmosis is going to make our water go into our bodies, okay? So this is used to move water in and out of the large intestine. If you have a lot of water in your food, then we'll suck, and then low water in your small intestine will go from high to low until we're even, right? So water will move out of your food and into your large intestine. Sorry, not small. Make sense? This is why diarrhea is so dangerous, because diarrhea is when your intestines contract before you're able to suck the water out. This is why people get dehydrated, right? Vomiting is the same way, right? You vomit before you're able to take anything out of the food. When this happens, you need to replenish yourself with more water because you're not able to get the water out of the food, which is what you need, right? So osmosis is going to move water from our large intestine into our bodies, right? And then our last transport, active transport, okay, is going to move the fatty acids. They're going to be transported by active transport into that lacteal. Remember we had that shape? We had the villi that looked like that, and then in the center of the villi, there was this like little yellow guy, right? You can go back a couple slides and look if you want to. That's the lacteal. So the fatty acids are actually going to be transferred into the lacteal through active transport, and that's how they get into our body, right? Now that we have everything in our body, next week, we're going to use it all. We're going to move it with the circulatory system, and we're going to use it to do something like, what's the point? Why do we take in oxygen and food, and what do we need this for? All right, we'll figure that out next week. So make sure you got your notes taken, come in ready to ask questions and ready to discuss this.